Good morning to all our breeders or all interested parties. We often get asked the question now, where did the Meatmaster idea originate and what was the start of the Meatmaster? And we refer to La Rochelle, or better known as Collett Farming Superior Genetics, as the home of the Meatmaster. Now, what claim have we got to say something like that? Because we don't want to boast about it or something. We're just trying to put things into reality and what really is. So there's nothing to try and boost our stud by doing something like this. It's just the perspective of what really happened in the beginning. So if we go right to the beginning, I'd say it almost started when I was still farming with Damaras, and we had a show up in Rustenburg, and I had a ewe that had come about fourth in the class or something, but I also had the champion ewe. And I went to ask the judge, and it was a guy that I really respect, and I know he really knows the breed very well, so I could trust his judgment. And asked him, why did he place that ewe first? I can see the Damara characteristics in her, but that ewe that was placed fourth is a ewe that I can really make more money with as a commercial farmer. And his answer was to me, he understands what I'm saying, but he also knows that there were things like Damaras introduced into places like Kokuland over the years, and that those are really the progeny of that kind of offspring. That immediately got me thinking, but if we can make more money out of an animal like that, then it's surely got to be investigated. I started doing trials then on myself because we were also stud breeders. I had a lot of mutton merinos. We were very well known in the mutton merino game. As you can perhaps see from the clock here, the whole house is full of prizes that we won in those days. We also had started the Freno breed, and we also had breeds like merinos in the beginning. We even had Littels at the beginning, but the main breeds we had were our Dorper stud, our mutton merino stud, and our Freno stud, and then of course the Damaras. So with what this judge had told me, I thought I'm going to cross a few of these things and really see what they look like and how they come out. And I was very surprised. They had very much better meat characteristics. We were having extremely difficulty at the time of trying to market our Damaras. They used to take them when we had small packets of 10 or 20, but once we started wanting to deliver 50 to 100 to the abattoir, they just said to us, sorry, we haven't got a market for these things. The people don't want them. So we had to make a serious change for the commercial side of our industry. And that is why we started with the crossing. Afterwards, a few guys joined us. I know there were other people that also had crosses already of different breeds, but we tried to put this whole thing in perspective. So we called a get-together here at La Rochelle, and we had a lot of people at that time, Dr. Campbell and Dr. Bux Willifeer were here. So we really had some top brains in the industry here, and then we had any farmer that was interested in what we were trying to do, and they were donor farmers because that is where we were sitting with the problem. Came here, and we tried to lay out a few things, and we said to each other, okay, let's breed these crossbreds. We didn't have a name for them at that stage or anything, but let's breed these crossbreds and just see what happens over the years. So there were guys like Dr. Walti van der Bolt from Hopetown area. He was already doing it, and he brought in a lot of, I know, Van Rooijs at the start into his mix. There were people like Christine de Toy also from the Prisca area. She started doing it, and Dani and them also started doing it, and also in that area, Kennard area. And we started, and we just said, let's just breed these things and first see where we come out with them. And it was at that stage that we bred them for, and we all had quite a number of these animals that we again got together, and we decided that, yes, perhaps there is something in making this a breed, because from this, we have a commercial animal that will meet market standards and that we can go ahead with. So we again got together, and there were some other guys that were here, but mainly about 4 or 5 of us were really taking this thing seriously, got together. Dr. Freddie Peters had joined us at that stage too. He had a different genetic makeup at his place, but from the start, when we had our first meetings, there were people that were also interested, and they were at the meeting, but it was as if they were watching the thing from the side, but they weren't totally sold out that this thing will ever work. And like a lot of those people, they just stand and watch and sometimes get involved, but also criticize, but really don't get into it. So the few of us that were really into it got together, and we had what you can call a think tank with all the specialists of the various from breed society, not from the breed societies, but from SA Studbook, from Dr. Campbell's side, and from Dr. Bucks Willifee's side. We got together and really decided, how are we going to go about this? And we took the initiative at the beginning to see what we can do as far as registration is concerned. But how we were going to go about this, we were going to sell it or market it to the registrar of breeds in the form of that this will be a new breed, but it's not going to be based on blood, so much blood from this breed and so much blood from that breed. It's going to be based from the start of this breed only on certain traits. And these traits had to have an effect on the amount of money that the farmers will be able to make for themselves in this whole process. So we looked at it from this angle, a few of us. We said, okay, to make money, we first need a product that can generate the income for us at the markets. But at the same time, we needing a product that's going to save us a lot of money, save us money in the form of not having to spend so much on a sheep with licks, with feeding, with a problem in drought times of having to get rid of stock and all that. We were looking for something that was really tough and adaptable to save us money, and at the same time it must have a conformation and a body and be able to slaughter an animal that will be acceptable in the markets. That was our criteria. How we go about it, we just said we'd accept anything of these breeds to give us the hardy things, and that is when we looked at what the composition of those breeds were. We said things like Van Rooijs, even things like the Makwa Afrikaners can be used, Afrikaners, but the main source would be Damarers. And we said we want Damarer blood in this breed because we saw the good traits that Damarer had for things like adaptability and other traits. So we wanted those traits in. Then we said, as far as getting the confirmation acceptable in the market, let's look at something like the breeds that are known as good meat sheep. And there we said, okay, we've got things like Dormers, we've got Ile-de-France, we've got Mutton Merinos, and of course we had the Dorper, which had moved away from the type of breed we were wanting to establish. That is what the Dorper was, we saw in the beginning, but it had moved totally over to the British European type of conformation and lost a lot of those African traits. So we wanted those traits back in. So we said, okay, we can also use the Dorper because it's lost those traits, but it can give us good traits of the British and European type. So we took those traits and we said, okay, now let's mix these things in and we see what we get. Afterwards, we had a blood analysis done of 3 of our studs. It was Dr. Freddie Peters. Well, I say studs. At that time, they were just our sheep. So it was Dr. Freddie Peters, it was ourselves, and it was Christine de Toy. And they did these DNA tests, and I think Dr. Walter van Meulen as well were also tested. So we wanted to see what the composition was of all these breeds, in this thing, in this animal that we had managed to breed. So when we took all that analysis, it was very interesting because about between 80 and 87% of the blood in all our animals was a combination of Dorper and Damarer genes. So those were by far the main or the priority of the genes within those breeds of ours. Yes, there was some Van Rooij, yes, there was some Ile-de-France, yes, there was other things as well, but mainly those two breeds. That was where the crux of the genes lay. So guys that started after us or later than us, they said, okay, well then we're not going to use these other breeds and we'll just use Dorpers and Dammerers. But we very plainly said from the start, this will never be our criteria, and we will stick to the fact that you can use anything, but the traits have to be there. We are looking for those certain traits. So that is why we, in the initial stage, we used a lot of these other breeds, but we lost a lot of, let's say, Van Roy blood in the beginning, for the simple fact that we couldn't get rid of the fat localization, and they were being turned down at the abattoirs because of fat localization. So we had to cull a lot of them out. Another one of our breed standards that we said, we are looking for something with pigmentation. We want pigmentation because we don't want pink eyes and trouble with cancer and all that type of thing. And a lot of them came out with these pink pigment around the eyes and all that type of thing. So that is how they were classed out. They weren't classed out because of the fact that they were Van Roys. They were classed out because of the fact that the traits that we were looking for weren't in the breed. As I say, fat localization and pigment being the main culprits. Then we lost other things from the Ile-de-France side, the Mutton Merino side, because we said we don't want a thing that has to be shorn. It has to be able to shed naturally, and these things were having difficulty in shedding naturally. So a lot of that blood was lost. Again, not because we had anything against Ile-de-France norm or anything like that, but mainly from the fact that they couldn't meet our criteria of being able to shed naturally. So that is how our breed evolved in the beginning. I then took the initiative to try and get this breed registered, because we knew we were going to have a problem because the register wasn't keen on registering any new breeds at that stage. A guy that really helped me terrifically at the start was Freddie Peters. He's a professor in a number of fields, and he can really put a story together well and put a lot of facts that you can give him into a very good presentation. He managed to make a very good presentation for us to put before the registrar. At that stage, it was Joe Mamabola. I think he's still the registrar at this stage. So we had to go and lay these things before him. They had a few problems with this and that, and we changed a few things here and there, but they accepted the fact that we are a breed that is made up of certain traits. The traits are laid down. They're in our breed standards. We can never get away from them. We'll have to stick to that, and we should stick to that, because those are the crux. That's what a meat master is a breed of traits. And our traits, as I say, we will have to really see that we don't allow breeders to move away from those traits. There are a lot of breeds that have other traits, much better than ours, but they haven't got that combination of traits of the hardiness, the adaptability, the able to withstand droughts, but be acceptable in the market at the same time, with high fertility and good rearing ability. Those are the aspects. Those are the traits we were looking for. And we got those out of this combination of breeds that we used in developing it. So after a lot of struggles of this way and that way, it was really a great effort. We managed to get the breed registered at the end of the day, and we could at last form a society, and we had an established breed that we could go to studbook with and also register animals. So that was the path that the whole Meatmaster breed went. That is when guys started coming in and joining us. Yes, there were a lot of guys that were very keen. I think sometimes people are scared they just lose out, and they also don't want to lose out, so they become part of it, but they're not quite sold into the idea. So in the beginning, one of the things we couldn't get past, and we had to accept it, the registrar said, because it's a South African developed breed, a true meat master is one which is registered, which has a pedigree and which you can trace. That is the true meat master. And that is also in our constitution, and we won't be able to change it because it was a restriction laid on us by the registrar. But in any case, so a lot of guys didn't want to keep record and that type of thing of the animals, and they left the breed, and there were some animals and guys got together under a name of, what was it, Afrifeldus or something like that. And they went their own way and we carried on. But we wanted to make this thing acceptable to as many people as possible. So we again got together and said, well, let's approach these guys and say, they can come into our society, but we can't change our constitution at all. But they can come into our society and they will be seen as commercial breeders. Their sheep will be seen as commercial animals, non-registered animals. And that is how our society is still operating to this day. So those guys, a lot of them came back into our industry, and you know about the phenomenal growth that has taken place since then up until today. So why we refer to ourselves then as the home of the Meatmaster, this is where all the initial meetings took place here on the farm, La Rochelle. This is where we got together in the beginning. This is where all these traits were laid down for the breed that we were looking for. It is from here that the registrar was approached. It's from here where the first sheep were put on a recording system. Our oldest ewe recorded at stud book is a 1987 ewe. That's pretty long time back already. The majority came on here after 2090, and of course we have only bred pure Meatmasters up until 2000. There's no from 2000 up until today, we've never used any other breed in breeding up at all or anything like that, because we wanted a breed established. We're not looking for good crossbreds. Crossbreds can be done all the time between Damaros and Dorpers, but they just crossbred. We were looking for pure Meatmasters, and that is what was established here, and that is from where the breed originated. So why we say we are the home of Meatmasters is just because those are the facts. This is where everything started. This is where it originated. This is where the registrations took place from. And we say thank you to people that helped in the effort, but the initial start of everything was done here at La Rochelle. So I hope that has made it plain to people. We're not trying to lay claim to anything else. We're just putting the facts out there. We can call ourselves the home of the Meatmaster because indeed everything did start right here.